Good morning, children. We had completed our Unit 1 long back. Before the exams, let's have a quick recap and a revision through all the question answers and the assignments which are provided in your Unit 1. When you go for your exams, you need to remember that for every question, you need some accuracy, some content, some vocabulary, and that perfection and precision in your answers. So all these answers which we are going to discuss just now would make you understand that how exactly are we going to answer in our boards or in our exams. Fine? I'm sharing the screen with you. I hope you all can see it very clearly, children. I'm discussing each answer with you. What did Lencho hope for? Lencho hoped for a good rain, as it was much needed for a good harvest. Why did Lencho say the raindrops were like new coins? Why does he compare them with the coins? I'm giving you just a summary of the whole chapter. This chapter, Letter to God, is about the farmer who's waiting for a nice shower, but instead of that shower, he receives a hailstorm. That hailstorm destroys his crops. That man had such a deep faith in God that he expects help from God because he feels that if God doesn't help, the whole family would die of starvation. So for that sake, he wants God to send him 100 pesos. When he expects that 100 pesos, he in return gets just 70 pesos. Who sends him those 70 pesos? And what does he feel about the people who actually were his benefactors and had gathered together and got the money for him to give him that 70 pesos, and how finally he feels those same benefactors as a bunch of crooks. A very short chapter, a nice chapter. Let's discuss the question answers. That is why here we're discussing. Why did he say the raindrops were like coins? He compared the raindrops with new coins because they were promising him a good harvest, which would result obviously in more prosperity for him. How did the rain change? What happened to Lencho's fields? The rain changed into hailstones as a strong wind began to blow and huge hailstones began to fall along with the rain. All the crops in Lencho's field got destroyed because of the adverse weather conditions. What were Lencho's feelings when the hail stopped? Lencho was filled with grief after the hail stopped, as everything was ruined and there was nothing that he could feed his family with. He could see a bleak future for him and his family. Who or what did Lencho have faith in? What did he do? Lencho had firm faith in God. He believed that God sees everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. And he here refers to God. God helps everyone in one's problems. He wrote a letter to God demanding him 100 pesos to sow his field again. Okay. Now when he sent that letter, who read that letter and what did that man do after reading the letter? Lencho's letter was read by the postmaster. Initially, that postmaster laughed when he read Lencho's letter, but soon he became serious because he was moved by Lencho's faith in God. He did not want to shake his faith. So he, the postmaster, decided to collect money and send it to Lencho on behalf of God. Okay. Next, was Lencho surprised to find a letter for him with money in it? He wrote a letter to God and he expected that God would send him money. So was he surprised when he found that letter? Lencho was not surprised to find a letter with money from God because he believed that God would surely help him. What made Lencho angry? There were only 70 pesos in that envelope, whereas Lencho had demanded 100 pesos. So the difference in the amount made him feel angry. Who does Lencho have complete faith in? Which sentences in the story tell you this? Okay. Lencho has complete and unshaken faith. Please correct this statement. Lencho has complete and unshaken faith in God as he is instructed that God knows everything and helps us in our problems. He believes that God will help him and his family from dying of starvation. Now, here in this question, we are expected to give some statements which support his fact. Okay, so the statements which are given in the text are, but in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope, a single help from God. All through the night, Lencho thought only of his one hope, the help from God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. God, he wrote, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, and still troubled, he went to town. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. Okay. Why does the postmaster send money to Lencho? Why does he sign the letter as God? The postmaster sends money to Lencho in order to keep his faith in God alive. He does this just so that his faith remains unshaken. He was completely moved by the firmness of his faith. When postmaster reads Lencho's letter to God, he becomes serious and he doesn't want to shake his faith, and he decides to answer the letter himself. He gathers money with the help of the post office employees and friends on behalf of God, and he signs the letter God so that Lencho's faith never gets shaken. Okay. Did Lencho try to find out who had sent the money to him? Why or why not? When he received the money, did he try to find it out? Lencho did not try to find out who had sent the money to him because he never suspected the presence of God. He knew very well that God exists. He had complete faith in God. He could not believe that it could be anybody else other than God who would send him the money. His faith in God was so strong that he believed that he had sent money to him for his help in his trouble. Okay? Question number 4. Who does Lencho think has taken the rest of the money? And what is the irony in this situation? What is ironical about it? Lencho thinks that the post office employees have taken the rest of the money as he had demanded 100 pesos from God, and in the letter there was only 70 pesos, and God cannot make such a mistake. So he assumes that the dishonest post office employees embezzled the money. The irony in this situation is that Lencho suspects those people only who had helped him in his problem and who had tried to keep his faith alive in God. Lencho doesn't stop here. He even calls them a bunch of crooks. So the irony here is that the real benefactors are considered to be cheats by him. Okay? Are there people like Lencho in the real world? What kind of a person would you say he is? You may select appropriate words from the box to answer the question. There are some words given. So we have to find out that which word is suitable for Lencho. It is almost impossible to find a person like Lencho, as he has an unquestioning faith in God and he's a naive kind of a person. He is not stupid if he doesn't know who has sent him money, or a letter will reach God without any address. It is his deep faith in God. In real world, people are selfish and greedy, and Lencho is totally lovable and a different man. Okay. Now, an important question comes over here. There are two kinds of conflict in the story, between humans and nature and between humans themselves. How are these conflicts illustrated? Conflict between humans and nature. The conflict between humans and nature is illustrated by the destruction of Lencho's crop by the hailstorm. As Lencho was expecting a good rain to have good harvest, as that was the only hope he had for his earning. He worked so hard to feed his family, but nature turned violent and destroyed everything for him. Now, the conflict between humans and humans. This story also illustrated another conflict between humans themselves, as the postmaster, along with his friends and staff, sent Lencho money that he demanded from God, although they didn't know Lencho at all. But Lencho blamed them from taking away some amount of the money which God had sent to him. He called them a bunch of crooks. This shows that the man does not have faith in other man, thereby giving rise to this conflict. Okay. Now this was from the assignments from the first chapter. Now the next poem is Dust of Snow. Dust of Snow, a very wonderful poem wherein the poet says that how a simple act of nature had gladdened his heart, had elevated his mood. Okay, let's continue with the assignments of the poem. Dust of Snow. What is dust of snow? What does the poet say has changed his mood? How has the poet's mood changed? Same thing. The dust of snow means the fine particles or flakes of snow. During the snowfall, light and fine mass of snow gathers over everything. This beautiful sight of the snowfall leaves a deep impact on the poet's heart and mood. He was gloomy and in a regretful mood as he felt that the whole day had been wasted. But the sudden shower in the form of the dust of snow changed his mood. The poet's mood changed from sad to happy. He felt refreshed and he wanted to enjoy the rest of the day. That was how that optimism and positivity had came into him. How does Frost present nature in the poem? Robert Frost has presented nature in its elemental and raw form. It is quite a dull and depressive winter day. It is snowing. The fine flakes of snow have amassed on the top of the trees. The poet is standing under a hemlock tree associated with poisonous qualities. Okay. See, he in the poem introduces the things which are inauspicious, hemlock tree and crow. But then that fall of the snow changes his mood completely. But initially he's talking about the inauspicious things only, okay? So, hemlock tree, poisonous qualities, sudden arrival of the crow and its alighting on the tree top led a mass of fine snow dust fall onto the poet. This sudden natural happening refreshes his spirit, gladdens his heart, and brings cheerfulness to his depressed mood. Okay. Now, this question has 3 parts. One by one, we shall be discussing each part here. The first question is, why does he talk about crow? Second is, why does he discuss about the hemlock tree? And then the third part is, crow and hemlock, they represent joy or sorrow. So we'll discuss individually each of the answer here. Generally, poets take the birds which are known for their beauty and good qualities, like peacock, parrot, cuckoo, nightingale, myna, etc. These birds either stand for their melodious voice or their royal grandeur. But here poet Robert Frost has taken a totally different approach. He chose a crow, which is not often used in poems. Crow is black in color with very harsh voice and is believed to be a symbol of bad omen. Thinking of a crow brings very depressing and sorrowful pictures to our mind. Basically, inauspicious images only come to our mind when we think about the crow. Yes. The next, hemlock tree is a poisonous plant with small white flowers. The poet Robert Frost did not choose to use an oak, maple or pine tree. Instead, he chose the hemlock tree and left all the beautiful trees present in the world. Actually, he did so to present his sad mood and feelings of grief. Next. The crow and hemlock tree represent sorrow and depression felt by the poet in this materialistic world. The dust of snow is a symbol of natural joy and energy. The dust of snow that the crow shakes off a hemlock tree means passing through the sad and depressing moments. The poet is entering into the time of joy and optimism. How it had completely brought out a change in his mood. Yes. What message does the poem convey? What message does the poem convey, or what message does the poet wish to convey through the poem? Robert Frost gives quite a positive message to the readers here. Depression and hopelessness do cloud our hearts, spirits and moods. However, there is a silver lining behind every dark cloud. The poet too had given up all the hope and declared that the whole day would go waste. Suddenly, the fall of the fine dust of snow on him brings about a change in his mood, and cheerfulness replaces the feeling of regret which he had initially. Okay? Children, whatever doubts you have, we shall discuss once the recording of the video gets over. Fire and Ice, the poem which discusses about two most powerful destructive elements of nature, fire and ice. So the poet tells us that how both the extremes can be causing destruction to mankind. So let's discuss the assignments of this now. There are many ideas about how the world will end. Do you find the world will end with someday? Yes. Answer begins from here. Everything that has a beginning or an origin does have an end too. It is the eternal law of nature. The poet also believes that the existing world will come to an end someday. There are definitely many ideas about how the world will end. This stands true for the world also. If the sun got so hot that it bursts, the whole of the earth would perish immediately, as no part of the earth can bear the heat of that intensity. But if the sun grew colder and colder, everything will come to an end, as without sunlight, life could not sustain. Both the extremes can bring destruction to the world. Okay. Now, an important thing here. What do fire and ice stand for? Fire stands for desire, greed, avarice, lust, conflict, and fury. In today's world, these vices are endangering the very existence of the planet Earth. I stands for cruelty, intolerance, rigidity, indifference, and hatred. The insensitivity and coldness is equally destructive according to the poet. What is the rhyme scheme of the poem? And how does it bring about the contrasting ideas? The rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, A, A, B, C, B, C, B. You've already been told, explained, how do we find out the rhyme scheme? This rhyme scheme helps in bringing out the contrasting ideas of fire and ice presented in the poem. The poet mentions that both fire and ice are probable ends of this world. He talks about how fire represents desire and can therefore be a cause of the end of the world. Frost also mentions ice in between to symbolize that the coldness and indifference towards one another will be enough to end the world. In the second stanza, he says that he knows of enough hate in the world to be sure that even destruction through ice would be sufficient to bring about the end of the world. What will be the cause of the end of the world if it has to perish twice? Here there is a paradox, okay? According to the poet, this world is not eternal, its end is certain. The poet sides with those people who think that fire, which symbolizes desire, will cause the end of this existing world. But if the world had to end twice, then it will be due to hatred, which is symbolized by ice. The poet advocates that there is enough hatred in this world, and absence of love and sympathy for one another will surely end the world one day. Now, the last answer, what is the message of the poem Fire and Ice? The metaphors of fire and ice are usually very effectively, I'll repeat. The metaphors of fire and ice are used very effectively to convey us a strong and a definite message. Fire, which stands for uncontrolled passions, desire, lust and fury. Such unbridled passions are very disastrous to human beings. Similarly, cold reasoning, devoid of human love, warmth and sympathy, will bring insensitivity, rigidity and hatred, which could further lead to the deterioration of human beings. With this, we finish the assignments of our Unit 1. Okay. Tomorrow, we shall be doing the exercises of Unit 2. Okay. All these answers were for your reference, children. Anyways, you through these answers would get to know that how exactly you are going to answer or how exactly you are going to present your content in the answers. Fine.